Record. All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the old card shop. We're going to be starting a new little series here. I think we're going to title the series something like Trainer Spotlight Series. It may change in the the future, but we are starting off with two really big pillars of the community here. I'm trying my best not to make them blush, but we have a BasicTrainer and PeekDatChu here, two of my favorite people to interact with here in the hobby. I'm sure a lot of you guys here on the channel maybe have seen their names rolling about. Neither of them per se are content creators, but both of them I would say are heavily involved with the Pokemon community. So that's what I mean by these guys being really pillars of the community here. And so we're going to have a little talk tonight. I'm going to talk to them about a lot of things. We're going to ask about them some personal questions about their life. We're going to get into some really detailed, no, just quit kidding. Some fun stuff about collecting, mostly Pokemon based. Maybe we'll talk about some other TCGs here, but we're going to have a fun little talk. So I want to toss a little welcome out to you guys and let you guys say hello. But Basic, PeekDatChu, how you guys doing today?
Go ahead, Pete.
Doing good, man. It's a late night stream, so I appreciate it. Crazy lives that Basic and I live, right? That we'll find out about, like you said.
Yeah, so we're in California. I'm over in California. I know you guys are more in the middle of the country, so it's a lot later for you guys than it is for me. It's sort of just evening for me. Like I'm gonna probably have a nice late night dinner after this. I'm sure you guys have probably already all done that though yourselves. But how you doing over there, Basic?
Not too bad. Texas, where I'm at. So yeah, I already had my dinner. 10 o'clock is very early for a Saturday. So so yeah, not too bad. First of all, thank you, Oldie, for having me on. Thank you, Peek, for throwing my name in the hat in the hat. So I appreciate that very. As a person that always calls himself a fan first. To be on so many, different channels and be brought on, it's an honor, really. So, and I appreciate that you're bringing me on to just even spill my 2 cents. Like, who cares? But I appreciate that a lot. So thank you.
Well, hey, the honor is all mine. Honestly, this is going to be a series that's going to really focus on what I think are the more important people in the hobby, which is just the average people who connect with Pokemon. I think there's a lot of people who are out there who view content creators. You view a lot of the stuff that's put out on YouTube, and you see like what I have in the background, a ton of product. Like I am a online store retailer. I'm a streamer, so this is all like inventory for me. So this seems normalized when you see this in a lot of streams, but I don't think that's the norm. I think what's more normal is average people who have regular jobs who collect and interact with the hobby, and some collect and interact for the long term, like for the case with I think what we're going to see, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think Basic, you've probably been in this for a pretty long time here collecting, haven't you? Judging from what I've seen in your Instagram and everything.
So I went back. I do document. I'm that much of a nerd that I document. I have a notebook and write dates down and whatnot. And so late 2013, I guess, is when I officially jumped in. Of course, it was a slow progression, as the momentum was building through 2014, and 15. But 2013 was like my first major purchase to when I got back in.
Yeah, and then to someone like Peek, which I think we spoke a little bit before, when did you jump back into the hobby recently? Are you more of a recent entry, or have you been in the hobby since like the old days? You never got out. Like you've got in those cabinets back there, you've got trophies lined up, and you've got all the different sealed boxes. Am I misjudging this?
A little bit. The only trophies I have back there are my daughter's toys at this point. But
those are the ones that matter. Those are the ones that matter.
Yeah, not worth a ton on secondary, but we're working on it. So
just wait. We gotta chill it up a little bit. I'll do my best for you.
Yeah, right. No, I started as a kid. I mean, I'm 32, so it was one of those things like, most people my age, we all grew up with Pokemon cards. They were at school. So I mean, they were literally everywhere. I was a Toys R Us kid. So like every Saturday going and playing the game, trading just the best cards for the worst cards because I thought it looked cool. And, I thought I was doing one over on somebody, but here's my Blastoise giving an Electabuzz. That's just like the classic, growing up story with it. Got out probably 2003, 2004. And I didn't jump back in until really, I remember looking at my I very, very casually jumped in. So it was maybe late 2018, maybe even early 2019. I actually dipped my toe back in and said, hey, classic story, found my old cards growing up at my mom's house, pulled out the binder, was like, hey, I was one of those weird kids who sleeved everything, and complete opposite, I think, of what we've talked about just before the stream started. I collected as a kid. I mean, I played the game, but if I had a cool card and I liked it, it went in the sleeve, went in my binder. It never left the binder. Like, I never took them out. I was just, some people think that's weird, but I don't know. I had a thing for collecting from an early age. And so yeah, 2018, 2019, I jumped back in and got my first cards graded, back in the old, I feel like this unfortunately dates people, but the $10 tier with PSA. So I sent off a few.
It'll come back.
Yeah, I think we're close to it. But yeah, I graded a couple of my childhood cards, and from there it was just like, mainly Facebook groups, kind of getting in, really trying to educate myself. I started with Pratt, went on to Pokenomics Jake, and then Gigabyte, just all the guys who had been in there for a long time, and just kind of educated myself for literally about a year. My Instagram is really the only social I have for Pokemon, but when I first made that, it was out of a need to want to engage with people like yourself and Basic, like in the hobby. So I'd been in for a little bit before I had a social presence, but now I'm for the most part all in, man. I love the stuff. I've always, been a researcher with the old history of vintage stuff. So yeah, that's really the backstory. So what is that? 2-3 years almost tops?
Yeah, and that's kind of where I think a lot of people in this hobby who recently came back in, they can really probably resonate with that type of story. I think there's a lot of people that would resonate with what Basic said too, where I think you've had a longer, even than me, you've been interacting with the hobby longer than I have. I only got back in, just like Colt said, in early 2019. It was really Hidden Fates that got me and dragged me back in. I, of course, had my collection, like a few things in my closet and everything, but I didn't really interact with the hobby besides other TCGs, which I was heavily involved with Magic the Gathering during my dark times with Pokemon. So I was always sort of involved with trading card games to a certain extent. But yeah, I think it's interesting to hear these types of stories. And it does kind of lead me to want to start another sort of fun question, because whenever I start asking people about how they get started, it always leads me to want to ask them some other fun questions that maybe don't get asked all the time. And this is one that I think I'm going to ask on every single one of these streams. But I want to start this one off with you though, Basic, because maybe I'll start by asking this to Basic, and I'll go to you, Peek, if you want to think about this, depending on which one of you guys can answer first. But I'm going to ask you both. But everyone talks about sort of their biggest favorite, most like important card in their collection, right? And I think everyone has sort of a card or a few cards maybe, or a set of cards that they value, maybe their childhood cards. But I like that. I like talking about that. But really what I want to hear about is something that people don't hear as much about. And that is, if you're comfortable sharing this, what is one of the, I want to say, the biggest pitfalls that you've run into in your time in collecting Pokemon? Because once again, a lot of talk has been talked about when people make big collection purchases, they do well, and all the big PSA reveals when you get PSA 10s. But have you ever been really burned in the Pokemon community to the point where maybe you've considered leaving, or maybe you had walked away? Or have you ever really made a blunder that was in such a way that it's resonated with you? And so I'm curious, Basic, what is your, I guess, your biggest Pokemon blunder, if you don't mind me? I'm going to start off with a little spicy question here.
When you ask that question, I think of Jake, because Jake says, not a lot of people talk about their pitfalls, their losses. Everyone shares, their gains and their big wins, but no one shares their losses. It sucks that I don't have a story of losses.
It's a good thing.
Only because I'm very disciplined. I always have a budget. So I don't use what I would say. I never reach into the honey pot. It's always based on, so in my household, it was always an allowance, right? That's okay. That's what allowed, adults need it too. Adults need an allowance so that they can just freely,
You're
just
disciplined.
spend on anything.
You're a real disciplined collector is what that sort of says to me in some way.
Right.
That's funny, because I'm definitely not. I don't collect and I don't interact with the hobby in a disciplined way. And when I got back into the hobby, it was a very haphazard, like, give me all of it, give me all the hidden fates I can find, more. I was like putting myself, probably buying more than I should have at the time. So that's a very interesting. I really wanted to ask about that too. So that's a good segue. But okay, so you're saying you can't think of a big time that you really would have said you took a loss, or maybe not took a loss, but had a big Pokemon blunder you can think of. So you never even like sent a PSA submission off and gotten like, you're expecting a PSA 8 and you got like a PSA 3 or something?
So
that's a win for you, by the way, Josh.
Well, for someone like me,
you're like, right? It's not a 1. It's not a 1, but
it's not a 1
close.
though. Yeah, maybe we're talking.
Yeah, because of the allowance thing and having a budget, I never made blunders, or because of it, I was never allowed to make blunders. Otherwise, I would have made a ton of blunders, right? Reaching into the honeypot, but
that's fair.
It's but because of that restriction, I was never allowed to make those blunders. But when you look into the big picture of my entire, I guess, career of collecting, right, when I got back in, it was always one of those situations where when I bought something, it was always, even though it was money that I can just blow away, I really thought about it that way, and I would always, just knowing that it's money down the drain, it's in the toilet. So whether it was a $50 card, or back then, I mean, really, I was buying for $15, base set Charizards at $20. It was money down the drain. I never expected it back. It was just something that I enjoyed. I'm one of those stores that lucked out. I never foresaw that this would be a thing that would be so huge, where everything would blow up in price so exponentially, where I am very fortunate today.
That's a good position to be in, though. That really is. It means you were able to steadily and safely acquire the really nice collection that I know you've gotten over the years. I know your collection consists majority of G.I. Joe cards, and so all that stuff. But okay, so Peek.
Sealed boosters if you need one.
That's all he's you need G.I. Joe cards, Basic Trainer, $100 a pack. He's got you. You can go to him or Logan Paul. It'll be a lot cheaper going to Basic Trainer. Trust me. All right. So Peek, it's a free show for you there, Basic. There you go. Peek, what is since you've been much more recently interacting with the hobby, and I know that what Basic said, it seems to me it was a more like steady, long-term, like real safe kind of, like just kind of slow drip, like putting money in. From our conversations we've had, I know that you've made some purchases over the last year that are big or small purchases that, I don't know, do you think that would you consider every purchase you made, or maybe those purchases wouldn't be in your wins or loss rank? Like maybe in your book, something like you got rid of when you got back into the hobby. Like for me personally, my biggest loss isn't that $7,000 loss I took on that I talked about on PK's Live with my Power Keepers box. Bought at the high, wanted to sell, never was able to sell since. I've lost about $7,000 of value. That means nothing to me. For me, it was my base or my shadowless Charizard that I traded my cousin for. I traded my cousin a Pikachu from base set for a Charizard from base set. She didn't really care about Pokemon, and it was just sitting in her binder, or not even a binder, like her cards doing nothing. And she really wanted the Pikachu. And I was like, all right, you're my cousin. I'm going to take advantage of this fact. So shout out Nicole. Sorry about that. But we go all the time. But yeah, that for me, I sold that when I got back into the hobby, because I got back in the hobby at 2019. I had several Charizards, and one of them was that Charizard that was worth about $400 raw at the time. It was at, right in 2019 as the Hidden Fates Charizard was going to 10 grand in Black Label. And I sold that thing for $450. And I went and bought more Hidden Fates with it, because I was a fiend for Hidden Fates. And I regret that to this day. So much so that I reached back out to the person I sold it to after the fact. And I said, hey, is there any way I could buy this back at this new market price? Whatever, that Charizard was my childhood Charizard, etc. And the person goes, oh man, I've bought and sold so many Charizards since that time. That thing's long gone.
Ouch. I'm guessing it was raw.
It was raw. It was raw, and it was
Yeah.
beat up. It was like PSA 5 condition. It was not a good condition, Charizard or anything. It was just a particularly. So that's my regret in the hobby. It's like not a monetary loss because I can buy another Shadowless Charizard, not a big deal. But you know, it's like something you can't. So speaking of that, like, what would you Peek? What would you say? What would you say is your, if you had one, biggest Pokemon loss? I would love to hear this.
So I would say definitely very similar to yours. As far as buying and purchasing online, very similarly to Basic, to where I'm not leveraged when I make purchases. So when I go out and, you know, whether it's $20, whether it's $2,000, if I buy it, I'm fine if I can hold on to that. You know, I don't necessarily have to sit there and flip it quickly. It's just not that big of a deal. I mean, there's some cards I'll do that with. If it doesn't sell, no big deal. It goes in the closet. It'll stay there. I'll look at it once a month and then, hey, do I want to put this up again? Mine's not necessarily monetary. So very, very similar story to yours, except I didn't swindle my cousin. So what I did is...
Key part of that story.
Yeah. Sorry, Nicole. I'll say it. I don't even know you. No, mine is actually, it's one of those, starting with a spicy question. This is a deep answer for that. So when I got back in the hobby, so one of the first cards I graded, you can see it on my Instagram, was the 1998 Japanese birthday Pikachu. It was a PSA 10. So that card, when I was 8, 9 years old, something like that, he has it. I knew I could find the buyer at some point. Yeah, that's the one. Oh, nice. I love the frame with the whatever it was that came with it. That's so cool. Yeah. So that card. So when I was 8 or 9, so my dad was really big into, like, and maybe this is where I get my collector thing. He was a classic car collector, like my entire life. So he's a lot older and was even then. So I would have to do his eBay motors, which sounds kind of nuts when you're like 8, 9, 10 years old. But I mean, realistically, I grew up with the internet. Like, I was the guy talking to the internet guy to, like, you know, log into the modem and all that good stuff. So anyway, for like, I'm pretty confident it was my 8th birthday. It could have been my 9th, but I'm pretty sure it was my 8th. I asked my parents, because I used to browse eBay on dial-up. For anybody who remembers that, waiting for anything to load was just brutal. Yeah, you get like half a picture. You're like, if you're buying cards, you're like, it's meant, it's fine. I don't even need to see the bottom half. But so I asked them to buy me that card on my let's just say 8th birthday for $40. So I was like, please, you know, just, this is all I want. This could be birthday, then. Christmas, next birthday. Yeah,
that's expensive, you know, back then too.
And if you know the history of that card, people thought that thing was ridiculously priced. Like, not at 40. I mean, people thought this was like $1,000 card. Like, even, and this is 98, 99. I mean, when this thing first came out. So
I never saw that until I got back in the hobby, Colt. So the fact that you saw that when you were a kid, that's really cool. Because like I value the one that I have there a lot, because like I saw that for the first time when I got back in, probably in 2020 actually, when I was really diving back in. And so I love that birthday Pikachu. So it's so cool that you have that story. Okay, so sorry for interrupting, but yeah.
No, it's all good. I would just type in Japanese Pokemon cards as a kid, because my dad did international business. He'd come back from Japan with like Japanese Team Rocket packs. He'd always have a ton of Pokemon cards for us. That was his whole thing when he came back from being gone a couple of months, because I was born in Guam, which is a island South Pacific. So my dad did a lot of business in Japan, Saipan, all that. So we were here in the States, the normal States. So he'd come back and just drop booster packs. So I thought Japanese Pokemon cards were the coolest thing ever. And I've talked to a few people about this, how, you know, holding it was like, oh my gosh, this is from Japan, you know, and back then there wasn't just like, oh, I can Amazon something across the pond to be fine. It was like, this is from another country. Go ahead.
So I want to ask, so Basic, was this, so I 100% agree with you about that, Peak. Was that your experience when you were younger too, Basic? Were Japanese cards like the coolest thing, like super exotic? Like when people had those, did you think that those were like more valuable than the English ones because they were like exotic? Because I definitely, there was that perspective at card shops around my area.
So 99, I was in Chicago, and we rarely saw Japanese, but I don't think anyone ever coveted Japanese. Actually, I remember thinking, nobody wants Japanese. It's
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember having that feeling.
Chicago, just like Japanese. Forget Japanese, man.
This is like, this is written in Snake. Why am I even looking at this? Like, what is happening?
So on the West Coast, I started out in the hobby in California, and I moved to Oklahoma when I was like 12. So I started when I was 8, I think, and then moved to Oklahoma towards the end of my interactions with the hobby before I moved to like Magic. and it was very, very like the perspective was that Japanese was like the coolest thing because like we didn't know what it was. It was always a couple of sets before. Oh, sorry, my got a pop up. There was always a couple sets like ahead. It felt like so you were getting like a preview of the sets. So I don't know. It just felt like Japanese on from where I was at. It always felt like it was coveted. That's really cool, Basic. That you're one of the few people I've heard of like that said back in the day you're like whatever Japanese don't really care much about this. So did that last your whole? When do you think? So you've been actually interacting in this hobby longer than both Peek and I. How has the hobby in your eyes sort of changed about this Japanese? And then I do need to hear the end of this story though, back by the way, Peek. So we are gonna have to circle.
Yeah, no worries.
We got
no worries.
And
this
Peek can
Japanese
finish the story actually. Yeah, Peek
well,
can finish
I'll just make it quick. So basically I got it. Parents bought it for me. You know, I take it, look at it for probably all of 2 minutes, stick it in a binder, forget about it for 20 years. And so then like I go back to my mom's house, pull out the binder. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. One of the very first cards got graded. It comes back PSA 10.
Oh my gosh.
Ecstatic. I'm like, I don't even know how this works. You know,
sitting in your binder the whole time?
Yeah, just in a sleeve in my, I would sleeve them and then just throw them in a binder. So it came back at 10. And this was when I was like, I wouldn't even say I was necessarily engaged with it or the community. I was just like, I want to know like what people are doing with Pokemon now. You know, what are my 8-year-old friends doing, you know, to an extent. And so that and a first edition Shining Gyarados were the first 2 cards I got graded. So the Gyarados came back at 9, the Pikachu came back at 10.
That's still good. A 9's really good on the Gyarados.
They're great.
Wow.
So the Gyarados got sold. Gyarados got sold for $300 whole.
Wait, you sold it? So you took it and you sold it?
Immediately.
Oh,
because
wow.
I didn't think I was in it long term. I was just like, I love that I got to hold these, and I think this feeling kind of stays with me a lot. I was just like, I'm so glad I got to own these so long. I got to grade them, hold it. This is mine. Now it's time to just, if somebody else wants it, like I'm fine passing it along. But the one I do regret is that Pikachu. I sold that for $13.50, which was a good price at the time. I mean, they were roughly
for a piece of shiny cardboard, man. That's pretty good.
Wasn't bad. I mean,
pretty
on a $40 return, right? I was investing from 8. No, but that is my biggest, I would call it blunder, because I was selling in the expectation of like, I'll sell these, maybe I'll buy and flip a couple, you know, but I'll be out of this in 6 or 7 months once I liquidate my stuff. And then once I found people in the community I really started engaging with, I was like, man, I can't leave this behind, because I had done collecting for other things for years, and this was just one of those things. I was like, oh, Pokemon, cool. I still love it. I love the art, the card, but that's the one that I haven't reached out to the guy yet.
I was about to say,
I will make a pit. I could probably buy it for that same price.
If you had to pay way more than you sold it for, would you buy it back?
Well, I've checked the pops like probably once a month on it, or the APR, just to see. And I think it's down like $800-900 is what it runs. So I'd be fine being like $1,500, man. Just throw it back to me. He's a super cool guy. He lives in Hong Kong. We've done a couple of deals together. So he bought it for his girlfriend because she loves Pikachu. So I don't know. I'm gonna be like, is she your ex yet?
You're never gonna get that back.
To me?
Cool. That card's way too cool. You're never gonna get it back.
Well, the difference in your story is mine has a cert number. So like, if I ever did need to go out and find it,
track it down.
And I've looked it up on PSA to make sure he hasn't sold it, and he hasn't. So like I can contact him, but that's probably my biggest blunder, because nothing else that I've sold or bought, I like I said with Basic, I align with this. I never leverage myself. I never overbuy on something that I don't need. Now I've made, I probably should have paid market for this, but at no point do I think, oh man, like, what am I doing? I don't know what's going on, because I have a very specific focus on types of cards that I go for. And I don't deal with set cards primarily. Like I might every now and then, but it's just not exciting to me. I know that's a little bit different. How, we've had a lot of conversations about that, especially with modern things like that. Like I like opening packs, but I'm almost exclusively vintage promos, 07 before, sometimes a little bit later than that. But when you're looking for stuff like that, there's not really, your market's kind of there. It's like, here's what you're going to buy it for. It's not, I don't have to worry about as much volatility other than, our crazy boom and everything kind of retracing a little bit. So that's my blunder story.
So just what you said though is actually great, because it leads me into what I wanted to ask both of you next. So So you said you mostly collect like promos and things. So what types of things do you like to collect? And basics, this will give you a moment to think about what you collect as well, or what your answer is, because I want to ask you the same thing. But what would you say the majority of like your collection is? And would you say you have a really valuable collection, PeekDatChu, or would you say you're very much so sort of a casual collector? Like, how do you classify yourself in this hobby? Not by any real standards, but just by your own standards.
So when I really decided I was going to get back into this and start buying and selling some things and collecting things, like my whole thing was, there was kind of a fork in the road, right? I was like, am I going to do high volume stuff, buy a ton of things and, try and flip most of it and then just keep what I like? Or do I just want to go a little more high end and keep kind of low inventory? But, because the main thing is I decided that I don't mind being patient. I didn't have to rush stuff out. I wasn't trying to do this full time, and props to anybody who does it. I just don't have the patience. I mean, my ADD would kick in. I'd be like, what am I going to do with this? I'd be the guy liquidating on Facebook that everybody's buying from probably if I did that. But my whole thing is like I said, when I was a kid, I would look up all of these cool Japanese promos. So like my main stuff right now is almost exclusively Japanese, and it's not on purpose. It's just there's not really a lot of English promos that even hit the market here. I mean, there's nothing that the Pokemon Company, which please find the old card shop video and watch this Pokemon Company, like give us English exclusives. Like, and Bidoof was not really that cool to me. Like it was all right, but like
don't ever watch this video.
maybe somebody who knows somebody
right away. They don't like what I say about them. That's too honest.
Yeah,
they only like YouTubers that shill them for only positive.
That's right. Well, hey, good thing is we don't see the thumbs down publicly, so it's all good, right? No,
we get to see them, though. We get to see them. The content creators still get to see them, which is a treat. It is a treat to be able to see those. Like, I thought they took them away for the content creators, but no, they left them.
No, you get to look at it and wallow anyway.
That was a fun little thing.
Now, I've gone on so many rants on that, but primarily what I usually try to focus on. I mean, my primary buy all the time are going to be Worlds cards. So World Championship promos. I mean, those are the coolest cards in the hobby for me. And there's been people who I've ranted and raved like for a very long time, especially in our Discord voice, like about these, because I find them so cool. And what I find really, what I focus on, I want to buy cards that have a very unique story of acquisition. So to give you examples, like one of my favorite sets of all time is the 1997 JR Stamp Rally promos. So it's the Lily Pad Mew, the original piece of that art. Core might have come out right before that, maybe by like 2 months. But the JR Stamp Rally and the Mount Fuji Pikachu. It's surfing Pikachu. He's got a bullet train behind him. You had to go to like 30 train stops. And I actually have, not in my trophy closet back here, but in my other closet, I have the original train map with the book with all the stamps from all of the train stations, whoever this kid was that had to go around and do it. I've got his pass to go there, and it all came as like a set. And PSA has those cards and has for 13 months. But that's a prime example of stuff like that. Masaki promos are the coolest thing. I ended up getting out of those just because I thought the Gengar was just way overpriced. And I was like, I want to complete a set, but like I just can't justify paying that much. And really, those are going to be probably the primary things I focus on. I mean, I've got a championship arena, which is a Japanese promo as well. Any of the battle road stuff is cool. Like anything that requires you to do something to get it other than pull a pack, and it was hard, usually the harder the better. That's really what I like to buy, because it's got a story behind it. I mean, that's one of the things. If I have a slab in front of me, like I want to be able to say, to some friend who doesn't know anything about Pokemon, they're like, what is that? I'm like, oh, cool. Let me tell you. And that's the coolest thing ever with the hobby, because I'm a whiskey collector. Like I love things that bring conversation with people. And I think that's why I've really ingrained myself in this community so much, because I love hearing about how somebody got a card or what's the history of this. I mean, that's my favorite part of the whole hobby. So that's primarily, I mean, I primarily buy anything again, anybody will buy a $20 card for sure, but primarily most of my buys are anywhere between the 800 to $4,000 a card usually is what I tend to focus on. So I don't make a ton of, I mean, me personally, like it's just numbers to me. Like it doesn't really, like I'm desensitized to a lot of that stuff. Like I just, when you follow guys, you see them like, I bought a $150,000 booster box. Like at that point I'm like, well, what is $2,000? Like, that's nothing in this, but if I can get numbers, they're big. I mean, but I'm not buying
No, I mean the booster pack
I'm
prices.
Oh yeah, it's insanity. I just can't imagine. It's cool to have a sealed box, but I'm like, there's so many other cooler things, like the stamp box. If you guys have seen that from 2021, the Japanese stamp
So
box,
cool.
I think it's S2,
Love
coolest
it.
thing ever, man. Like
Love it.
that's the type of box I would keep sealed for sure, and buy the cards, because I think that's so unique.
I 100% agree.
That's
with
what I
you about
focus
that.
on. So.
So basic. That leads me to ask you the same question. For some reason, I have a feeling that you have a slightly different answer. I don't think. All right. Sorry about that, folks. We're back. But to sort of go right back into it. So basic. That leads us into the next question, though, or the same question. But what types of things do you collect? Because I have a feeling that it's probably a slightly different answer than what Colt just said. I have a feeling. Well, let me just ask you. What do you collect?
Okay, so may I start with the beginning, what I started with?
Oh yeah,
So the way I got back into the hobby was actually gem and Pokemon. So shout out to my hero.
Zach.
A lot of people have
Zach's awesome, man.
Yeah, a lot of people have different heroes or people that they get attached to as far as like the hobby goes. Like for example, PK, it's Rusty, TCA. For me, it's gem and Pokemon, Zach. And my bridge between when I stopped, with the hobby, I left the hobby and then came back in. My bridge was always the Game Boy games, and so that's what always kept me tied in. And so, getting back and coming back in at some point during late high school, I was looking at Game Boy, Advance, Game Boy Colors games, buying them and whatnot. Through this on YouTube, I ran into Gem and Pokemon. Didn't know who Gem and Pokemon was at this time, but he's opening booster boxes and grading, and that's how I found out. Wait a minute, there's still booster boxes of this? Like, there's no way. These things are so rare. Like, how is he still buying these? Because they're so rare. And so the whole grade thing, I was like, whoa, like you can grade these? That's so amazing. Needless to say that right away, I saw that and it just, boom, I fell right in. Since that moment, I saw, no offense to anyone, but binder cards is like, boo, that's for kids. This is the adult version. This is the adult version of collecting, right? Sealed vintage product.
I agree with you.
Yes, they
to an extent.
I'm a perma child then. I love binder cards.
But again, no offense, because today
no, absolutely.
Everyone collects differently. Everyone
I want to hear your story for sure.
Differently. So right away, one of the first things that I bought was WotC boxes. But
wow,
as far as slabs go,
sealed, like so sealed boxes. Sealed. Wow.
What'd you buy, Basic? What boxes?
My very first sealed product, again, thanks to Gentleman Pokemon. It was a base set unlimited box, and it was at $600.
Woo, boy!
You still have it?
And at the time, I have everything. I have everything that's a sealed, product.
Solid, man.
Did it feel expensive at the time? Like that $600? Did it feel like you shouldn't have been doing it?
Oh, I was made fun of so hard. My family, brother, like, what are you doing? Like, you're being so irresponsible with your money. At that point, it was just me, right? It was just my income. And it was just one of those things. When I bought that box, I said, I'm going to open this up because I never pulled the base set Charizard ever as a kid, up until the Leonhardt pop-up shop, actually. And so that was my very first base set Charizard pull. But I said, okay, one day I'm gonna commemorate something special by opening this box. Well, as I waited and waited and waited, the prices kept going up and up and up, and it just became irresponsible to open that up.
So your irresponsible decision made you feel responsible later, is what it sounds like.
You still have that box?
Exactly.
That same box?
I have every single sealed product as when I was getting back in. Every single one.
That's so cool.
Good for you on that discipline, man. That's a good example.
Well, it's one of those things where some people like Peek, would call me, disciplined and good on you, and other people would be like, you're dumb. Especially in 2020.
But no, that's a good perspective though, man. That's a really good perspective because a lot of people in hindsight, it feels like you have this base set booster box, right? I'm sure a lot of people think like, Oh, well, that's a no-brainer. At $600, what's that thing worth right now? It's like 12,000, 14,000 on the low end.
Right.
It's like that's a no-brainer. But
That's
at the
the
time,
retrace price, by the way.
yeah,
Which
and that's
is even
exactly.
better.
It was all the way up to like 30. So at the time, for you, it's cool to hear that like you're saying like, no, that didn't feel responsible. So okay, so you started. I think that's interesting because I don't think a lot of people start buying like old vintage sealed right away. So you
And
started with sealed.
yeah. And by the way, first edition, I remember running into the first edition box as well. First edition box, if I recall, and I know there's ways to find this, I never did, but I remember making the decision, which one do I want? And I passed on the 4,000 first edition box because my thought was, well, if I'm going to spend $4,000 on one item and probably I'm not going to be able to buy something else for quite a bit, I can take those $4,000 and spread it, throughout, quite. That was my thinking. That was my brain wiring, happening.
Same thinking
Obviously
happens today too, by the way. I think this to a certain extent, but on a bigger level, same exact thinking right today. Okay, so you started buying sealed. That's different because I think a lot of people, when they get back into the hobby, they don't go immediately for the old sealed vintage product. That's really cool. Okay, so where'd you go after sealed, or
so
how far into
after
sealed did you go?
Or so right away when I bought the base set, that base set felt lonely. So literally like a couple weeks later, I was like, well, I got to get the jungle and fossil, right? Because and if I get the jungle, I got to get the fossil. And so it's and throughout career, it's been I do have a little OCD in me, and I've got to have a set. I've got to have the complete thing. So if I ever sell one, they're all gone if I ever do it. But yeah, so once I did that, I remember getting Team Rocket, a few others, but I was also then jumping into the slabs. And my first 3 slabs were trainer cards. I remember it was the Team Rocket Returns, Professor Oak, and Bill. And only because my favorite Game Boy game was the TCG game, the black cartridge.
I love that, dude.
Favorite. Yeah,
I hate to interrupt, but man, nobody I have talked to remember. Well, they remember it, but they never played it. I won't interrupt you, but dude, that is so funny that you say that, because that's the first time I saw Amakuni. If anybody remembers that game, he was a trainer in that. And that's I have a 9 of his trainer cards specifically because I played that Game Boy game, and I was like, who, what, why does he have ears? This is weird. And that was one of the more recent, within like the last couple of months, I've been wanting to buy that card, the 9, and it never comes up. And I finally got it. The 97 I'm a Kuni trader. So, but because of that game, which nobody I've talked to in this hobby the whole time I've been back has told me I played the trading card game. Like nobody. So that's cool, man.
I played every single game up until Crystal, and then I completely stopped, and then I jumped back in Sunny Moon, and I was like, yeah, this isn't for me anymore. But
3D, what are we doing?
But yeah, the PTCG game was my favorite time, still is. And Professor Oak and Bill trainer cards are like essential to your decks, right? I never played in real life, but those are essential.
Who was your first shiny you caught, Basic, in the video game? Who was your first actual like shiny that you caught in the VGC?
I don't think I ever have.
Really? Never?
I think in Crystal you were able to, right? But or even silver, gold and silver. But I don't remember ever having shinies other than the red Gyarados. But that's an automatic.
Yeah, neither have I.
Gyarados.
I've never caught one either until this recent game. But okay, so sorry.
And then the in modern games, I don't play them at all actually.
Yeah.
So
and to be fair, I didn't even know that you could catch a shiny when I was playing those. I was just like, oh, there's this Pokemon in here. So I didn't even know that until you guys just said that about silver and gold.
I famously, I had a binder with Magikarps in it, like just normal with all the 151 Pokemon with base set stuff. And I had 4 Magikarps in a sleeve and a binder without sleeves, just, behind each other. 2 of them were base set too. One of them was a base set and one of them was a shining Magikarp. And that's because when I was a kid, I didn't know the difference between a shining and a non-shining, and I just put it into the stack with all the regular common Magikarps. And I later on down the road, when I was looking at my collection, I was like, oh, well then, okay. I was not expecting this. So okay.
Yeah, so right after Field, right in between it was the slabs. I started getting into the slabs, and then you go back to what you collected as a kid. So I started actually collecting master sets of base set Jungle Fossil. And I completed those, very, very, very fast, very easily. But in between buying lots, Because sometimes you'll find a lot of 3 or 4 slabs, and then there'll be a Japanese in there. And when I compared that Japanese base jungle or fossil, whatever it was, to the English, I was like, wow, Japanese is actually more beautiful. It stands out.
Finally, he made it.
It's more attractive. And so right away, I decided I need this in Japanese. So then I bought I started buying slabs for those sets, master sets, and I think I bought all the way through Team Rocket. I bought all the way through Team Rocket, building those master sets and slabs, just the hollows. But at one point, during the peak and even after, I pretty much sold off the English. I kept the Japanese. Japanese has been a genuine love for me, because today you could say, the whole Jake argument, oh, the only reason why you like Japanese is because other people are saying Japanese. But way in the beginning in 2014, 2015, it's like, oh, Japanese is much more attractive than English. Hollow patterns, even the writing, right? The Japanese writing just makes it more exotic, if you will.
It's the original language. It is the original language.
And so from that standpoint, I just went from that standpoint. Once I stopped collecting sets, because I agree with Peak, sets started getting very boring. I started going for those unique items. And maybe at the beginning, it was still those, promos that pretty much everyone still has today, right? But just like everything, you evolve, you get experience points, and you evolve, and you get into other areas. And $20 buys turns into $50 buys, turns into $500 buys, turns into $1,500 buys. And desensitization is definitely a 100% thing, because today I can spend $1,500 on a card, and it's like, that's what it
costs. I want it. It's hard to get. I'm buying it. Yeah, exactly.
Just the other day, I shouldn't say this because it's on my list of like wants, and some people might disagree as to you shouldn't buy this, but it's the Team Rocket case. 2016?
The 20th anniversary.
Yeah,
the briefcase.
Yeah,
dude,
so
graded,
cool, dude.
Yeah,
Cool
graded.
art. Oh, you want the slabs itself?
I want the slabs.
I saw the case itself for $500 going on auction. I was bidding on it up to $300 because it was like 2 years ago, back when it was still kind of expensive, but like not what it is now. Not even what was inside. It was just the case itself. It's really, really cool.
I was
Giovanni with the Persian, such a cool card.
Oh,
when he's sitting there, that's like, I forget what the card name is, but it definitely
that's the most gangster card in the game.
So what is your favorite card in the entire hobby, Basic?
Other than that one,
so is that like the one? That one there?
If I had because I have the one that I'll mention right now, but if I have the two, it's Giovanni. And I love Team Rocket, but Giovanni, that one card alone, I would trade a lot for that one card.
Because of art.
It looks.
So you don't have it yet. So that's a goal for you. That's like a grail.
It's a goal.
Awesome.
It is a grail.
That's so cool. So what about you, Peak? What's your favorite card?
Man, I've got.
Wait, actually, no. You didn't tell me what your favorite. You said you had another one though, Basic.
So, other than that card, my favorite that's attainable, and I have it, is the Team Rocket Japanese embossed card.
Which one?
Pull it out in a second. The Japanese embossed Team Rocket. It's like a very dark theme.
Do you have it near you?
I don't know if I remember.
That sounds cool.
I can pull it out.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So, Peak, what is your favorite card in the hobby? This is something I actually wanted to ask both of you. So this is a good conversation. This is perfect.
Man, yeah, I really I've got 3 technically. 2 are, well, one is absolutely unattainable. I'll never have it. But the one is really hard to get, and one I am about to purchase here in probably 5 days. I've already got a deal lined up for it. But so the one I'm about to purchase here that I've already got a deal for is the Mew 7,000 point play promo. It's Mew, like the Matrix Mew. He's floating with the rocks. Like, I think that is the coolest Mew art. Like, if you guys think the Core Shining Mew is cool, awesome.
Is that Unseen Forces?
No, it's a Japanese promo.
Okay, so it's exclusive.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a 7,000 point play promo, and I want to say when you had to play those tournaments, I think you got 30 points per win. So that's how long it took you to actually like get that card, to be able to buy it. But Really beautiful card. Can't wait to have it. I waited purposely because I had an option to buy a 9 for a good price, and I passed because I knew that once I got that's going to be here. Like that's going to stay with me because I love that card. The second one, which this is almost like if I get this, I'll probably be done. Not completely done with the hobby, but it'll be like if I've gotten to this point, it's like I'm going to go on to other TCGs and buy cool stuff there, but it'll be the 1999 Tropical Mega Battle, Tropical Wind. It's a mouthful. It's the one with the exclusive Tropical Wind art with Psyduck on the hammock. I think that captures the nostalgia of the hobby better than any card I've ever known. It's been one of my favorite cards, if not my favorite card, the entirety of ever since I got back in. It's beautiful. It's at the low price of 50 grand. It's probably the cheapest I've seen for a 7. It's not the way I look at it. It's not crazy out of reach. I think I could definitely, my goal is to have it probably by the end of, preferably by the end of this year. If not by this year, hopefully by next year, if the prices tend to stay around where they're at, maybe a little lower. And then the unattainable is the third place 1998 Trophy Pikachu. Third place specifically for the art because it's chunky Pikachu, which who doesn't like that? And the way he's like looking and like holding the trophy, it's like the coolest looking card ever. So if anybody hasn't seen that, 98, number 3, 1999 Tropical Wind, Tropical Mega Battle, super long word. Just type in 99 TMB. And then the Mew 7,000 point play promo. Those are my 3 tied. Like I've never seen card art that beats those in my opinion. So, and different eras, which I kind of like.
Yeah, really nice variety there. I would say that's good variety. Were you able to find that Team Rocket card?
Yes.
I want to see this thing. It sounds cool.
By the way, Peak has very expensive tastes.
I was about to say the same thing. Yes, like those. I'm not surprised from what he said he collected though. It's about on brand. That's what I would expect.
I always like to set things that are really, really hard to acquire because it makes me not buy, which I need help like that with my discipline. And then also it's just like, it gives me something to work toward, because if I only have like small goals like that, I do that professionally, personally. It's like, I'd rather just shoot for the moon because anything I get on the way is already better than what I would if it was, the goal was less. So that's, and honestly, they shouldn't make the cards look so cool if they're expensive. So that's kind of my feeling.
So I'm going to show a few here if you don't mind. And
yeah, please do. This is awesome.
And yeah, the way I collect, because I know we're all probably very long-winded, but yeah, it's things that catch my eye, that are unique, that you show this to the casual person and they don't know what it is. That's what's attractive to me. So this is the Japanese embossed. So once you see it, you probably know.
I love the Magi. Oh, those are so good. Now you're talking about, those are some of my favorite in the whole hobby, Basic.
Yeah. And so yeah, these are some of my favorites as well.
Yeah,
I've never seen these before. That's cool.
Have you seen the verses? The actual the Pokemon verses of that set, Basic?
The verses, yeah. Well, here I have one actually. I think this is one of my favorite scenes in the anime.
Oh, that's a good one. That Muck versus
yeah,
dude, I love Muck. This Muck's such an underrated Pokemon.
I always jump on Mason's whatnots and say, let's get a Muck, because to me, again, going back to the anime, if it wasn't for Muck on this play here, on this match, Ash does not go on to the next round.
I've heard you say this. It's so funny.
Yeah. And so Muck to me is my favorite just because of that episode.
That makes me think of just Basic. Real quick.
Yeah, that. Oh yes, yeah, that one.
That's dope.
Yeah.
The when we were at the pop-up shop, Swolepoke, super cool guy. He doesn't have a YouTube, but follows Instagram. A guy, he's opening a creatures box. If you're watching this, man, please just put out the video. It's time. You had the whole Lord of the Rings set up with the camera. Let's make it happen, dude. But we were at the pop-up shop and they were opening base set packs. Not him, but we were just kind of watching the stage and everybody starts opening. He's like, pull a Muck. Like he just started screaming that. So like when he said that, I was like, maybe he has the same passion for how he saved the whole, he saved Dash. That's why he's still a trainer, right?
And really, Muck did have a personality in the series.
I love Muck.
Yeah, I love it. He was always like jumping on people, hugging them, like being lovable. So it's like the personality always, and the fact that, Bellsprout was over here kicking ass and Ash was like there's no way you're getting out of this one. And he's thinking, and he's got the plan. He's like, it's Mug's time. He took care of it. But like,
you guys keep talking. I've got to grab. I want to show you guys a couple things too. So we'll let you keep talking for a minute.
For sure.
We get a show and tell with some trophy cards here.
So once again, Japanese, right? And again, this is nothing that's like super rare or anything, but
I love that card.
Yeah, it's something that people just don't have in their collection. Most of them. And this is what attracts me. And on top of that, it's Team Rocket. I love Team Rocket. I've always been a fan. Here's another one. This one's a little rarer, just a little, nothing crazy. But when I saw this guy, it's one of those things that's just, I gotta have this.
Is that the Zukan? The Zukin?
This is Danon, the Danon yogurt, Canada release only.
Okay.
Pokemon Stadium.
That's cool as hell, man. I've never seen that before. So that is a new one for me. I thought that might have been, that's really neat. The artwork of Charizard's really cool too.
And you got it's like a baseball card, information type thing in the back. And
that's neat.
So
and PSA actually grades them.
Yeah. So, and again, Canada release only. You can still find a few sealed, but they're not in very good condition. You find maybe another handful that are, open and they're just beat up. There's only 14 and it's been like that for a while. There's only 14 of these in a PSA 9 and only 2 in PSA 10s.
That's crazy. So there's not going to be many more either. I've never seen that card. And I buy collections constantly as someone who's like a reseller. I'm constantly interacting, buying and selling. I've never even seen that. So that's really cool.
I've been keeping track. And as a matter of fact, and I don't know if I should pull it out. So I thought that one was so cool. Let me see if I can find it quickly. But even the Burger King one, that one's awesome. I like the Burger King cards. Those are actually probably more nostalgic to me.
I have a sealed pack of these right here. Yeah.
I have 2 sets of those myself.
That's super cool.
The Burger King ones are probably the most nostalgic to me because as a kid, every Friday, as a family, hey, out to eat, right? Let's go get it. Let's go eat out here. Let's go eat out there. Well, during 1999, I made it a point, to my parents, no, we're going to Burger King. So it's a Burger King. Oh, every Friday. I don't know.
Did you get the gold Pokeball? Was that Burger King?
I've been wanting the set. I've been wanting the sealed set, for a long time, but it's just like, for that price, I'd rather have this graded card, right? But
that's the struggle. It's like, only if I had more money, I would just buy this. It's fine.
But so this is the first one that I showed, right? And I bought the one and I thought nothing of it. I thought it was cool. I saw one of PWCC come up, and I'm talking about recently, November, maybe December. If you notice, this is silver. In the pictures, I noticed the differences, and this one's gold. And so one's silver and one's gold. And once I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a variant. I need it. And so I got both the silver and gold. I don't know if it means anything. I don't know if it's just a printing thing, ink thing, but
I'm guessing the labels are different.
The label on
like
PSA
what PSA
PSA won't recognize that. No,
not at all. It's the same.
Come on, let's be real. PSA is not going to recognize that. If we don't recognize that, if a guy like Basic hardly knew, then PSA is definitely not going to catch that.
So even the Charizard, the Pokemon head, it's silver and gold. There's a big difference between the two. Everything is silver on this, and everything is gold on this. So
that would be a really cool. Not to like shill E4 here, but that would be a really cool data point to share on one of their threads. Because one of the cards, I'll show you guys.
Would like to know that too, just because he's a Charizard collector who likes variants, and he's trying to work with PSA to get that set registry kind of accurate more. Which props for anyone like that who just is trying to like Rusty, man. What a pillar guy! That guy. I think we can all.
He's the goat, man. He's the goat. He's a beast.
What do you got for us, Pete?
That actually kind of leads me into it. The next place I wanted to ask you guys about.
Can I show you one thing?
Really please. Yeah, you got some trophy cards, right? Let's see them.
Not full trophies, but some good ones. So I'll bring this one up because this is one of my favorite things, and hopefully my camera can capture it. But the Imakuni I told you about.
Yeah.
So 97, it's in a 9. I don't even know what the pop is. It's got to be under 30. I think it's like 20 something. Because if you try to find this raw mint, and if you do, like, I'll pay $500 for it immediately. Because if you look at anything, it's literally like heavily like destroyed. Like if you want some PSA ones of this, Josh, they are all over eBay.
I saw
but
one in the collection one time. I have seen that card come, but it was like it had like a cat in there. It was pretty crazy.
So what's nuts about
like
this
cat
one?
Scratch. It was wild.
What's nuts about this one, and this base, it kind of has a little bit to do with what you said, like the silver and gold writing. So one thing, and you probably won't be able to see it, but if you look it up at a later point, it's probably not going to focus. But right under this guy's nose, there's like, I'm going to call it acne. It's like this huge like zit. It's kind of weird. They have another variant of this that is non-glossy, where they've edited the acne out. And from what I've researched, it was ones that Imakuni actually went to some event and just handed out freehand. I've never found one. Zach, Jim Met, and I have actually gone down the rabbit hole of talking about like these type of like little cards like this and trying to find them, and he actually knows about it. So he was the first person I've ever talked to that was like, yeah, the acne free. And he was like, yes. And I was like, wait, you know what I'm talking about? So very cool card.
Them to do that with me when I was younger in some of my photos. They need to do an acne free version of that. That would be good for me.
So that is the trading card game that you talked about, Basic. That's why I own this card. That's why I looked for it. Another cool one is the Ancient Mew, but this one's a little different. So if you guys don't know the differences in the Ancient Mews, this is the Japanese corrected version.
The Nintendo? The Nintendo?
No.
Or...
So people get confused. So the Nintendo, they think, oh my gosh, that's like got to be the rarest one. So it's actually not correct. So when Japan first launched the movie, Nintendo was wrong in the beginning. Very end of the print run, they corrected it to Nintendo. So this is the corrected Japanese version. And I have never found a non-zero cert of this card. Like, I don't know where the new certs are. I don't know if they'll ever have them. But that's the big difference. PSA has a very difficult pop report to go around because everything is Ancient Mew. Like, they differentiate it a little bit, but it's not by much. But if it says Nintendo, you're not gonna be able to read it. But that is one of the cooler Ancient Mew pickups because I love this card as a kid. I went to see the movie when I was 10, and when I looked back at these, I was like, I just want the rarest one. Like, which one came out? And there's 4 variants, I think, 5 variants, if I'm not mistaken. So super cool. Only other 2 things I'll show you.
Sorry, I've always said if you do not have an Ancient Mew in your collection, you are not a collector. You are not a Pokemon collector if you do not have an Ancient Mew.
Josh just pulls out like a whole stack of them. He's like, dude, I'm ready. All right, rainy day. Where are you at, man?
The rainy day.
Mine's a crimped Ancient Mew.
Nice. That's awesome. I haven't seen one in a CGC case. That's cool.
Well, so I pulled out of a collection, so I sent it to CGC because they did the whole error thing. So
the only 2 things I have. This is a bonus. There's my Misty Seadra from the pop-up shop.
That's a cool one. Oh yeah, you pulled that. That's right.
I did pull that. So what's funny is I have like 5 of the pre-releases from my childhood. So I pulled it and I was like, cool. Like, you know, but it was cool to open a pack like that. That's awesome. So the only other 2 things I've got, because I've got a few things, I don't want to take up too much time. I have the Nat Awake Birthday Pikachu, which is my favorite all-time Pikachu birthday art ever.
Oh, that's a good one.
And it came out of this. So oh, nice, dude. So it came out of this manga. So I bought a sealed manga, opened it. It's the Nat Awake Volume 6. So cool to have. This Pikachu is just amazing. Like, he was old enough to drink. You can see the wine. So.
This one is my favorite Pikachu, birthday Pikachu, and then I call this one the bougie.
like you said earlier, man. You know why I've got one, right?
Yeah.
Like me as a Pikachu. All right, so last one, the 97 Junior Stamp Rally stuff. So my 2 that I took out of this folder are at PSA, but I did just recently pick up a 10 of the Junior Stamp Rally. So pop on this one as of today, I think is 22. So after like 20 years or however, somebody else do the math for me, 25 years, something like that, that's what it is. And it came with the stamp book. So like whoever the kid was that went around and did this, it still has like all the original stamps from when he went to, you know, the train station. I won't undo this, but the map that he had to take to like see where he had to go. And then this was the folder they gave out, which was meant when I bought it. And that's where the cards, you see the 2 little stickies there. That's where the cards went. So this is, if not my all-time favorite, like it's definitely top 3 favorite promo set ever. But yeah, some of the coolest cards ever, dude. Yeah, I'm a big fan. And then this is probably the best card I own at the moment. So the 05 staff, can't really see the staff.
What's the grade? Is that 9?
9, yeah. So I bought this raw, graded myself. And actually, the best card I've ever owned, I got it from the same guy. So I had a 2004 top 16 Tropical Wind. I was the third pop 10 in, or well, did I say that right? The third card in pop 10. I'm saying this so weird. PSA Pop Report. Yeah, the third 10 on the pop report is what I meant to say.
Congratulations.
Dude, it was amazing. And I actually ended up selling that one because I have a couple other options I can buy from 04 that I'm going to try to get to. But David Perzin, if anybody knows him, one of the most humble dudes ever. Yeah, dude, Uncle Dave. He is awesome if nobody knows him. Josh, are you familiar with David?
I know of him, but I don't know him personally. I'm still waiting for the chance to be able to meet him and kind of be able to put that, that name to the face.
He has my favorite card of all time.
Which one?
Pre-release Raichu.
Yeah.
Oh,
he has that? He actually has it?
Sure.
Like a graded version? Are you kidding?
I bet he does. It's probably in a 10 somewhere.
It's not graded. No, it's all binders because doesn't he?
I'd have to see it. I'd have to see it, dude.
No,
I don't believe it.
You haven't seen his YouTube video?
Of the pre-release Raichu?
He gave it to his, I'm pretty sure it was his nephew, but I'm pretty sure it was his son, for a show and tell. And he went through the history, the kid went through the history during the show and tell of this pre-release Raichu. And so one of my favorite cards in my collection today is pre-release Clefable, not only because it's pre-release and the attachment to, the Raichu, but, Clefable also, no 10s, and then there's only like single digits and 9s, and only, 20 whatever of the 8s. I have an 8 myself, the cleanest 8, if I may. But I'll challenge anyone. I have the cleanest 8 PSA 8 Clefable pre-release. But yeah, pre-release Raichu. I remember when I was in high school.
I didn't know it was real.
About that. Yeah, I learned about that card in high school. I'm 34 years old.
I thought it was debunked. I didn't know there was an actual, because I know PSA doesn't grade one. So like I didn't know that it was actually like a real card.
If you go to maybe I
need to go back and watch it.
If you go to David Perz's channel, he has it on there.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know, he has one of every single English card ever released. Insanity. So whenever I met him, so he actually basically like this year Texas guy, he flew into Fort Worth for some convention. It's the first time that he had ever like flown out in years, like 2 or 3 years or something. And I met him and we, completed the sale, spent some time together and like got to talk to him. And one of the coolest people I've ever met in this hobby. And one thing I was talking about, I was like, David, how do you do this? I was like, what are you doing with these sets that have, 300 cards? He was like, it's a beating. It's a beating. Like, it was just so funny because, he's been in the game and he's like, I can't stop now because I have to have them. So until either I leave the earth or they stop making Pokemon, you can guess which one's going to happen first. He's like, I just have to go out and buy it. And I was like, I can't even imagine. You talk about like a true collector, OCD collector. David, he's the man. So super cool guy. One of my favorite people ever. But yeah, he got that. He bought that card for me because he's a big Worlds guy. One of the first people I started following when I first got back in because I love Worlds cards and super cool dude. Not a big YouTube presence, but if you reach out to him, he'll respond, guaranteed.
Yeah, so sorry about this. I have to, my Zoom is about to end on us, so I'm fixing it right now before that happens. So I did want to ask you guys, though, a question about something, a little change of pace here that may be a little more long-winded, but it'll be a good way to kind of wind down the conversation since we're getting pretty long. But I want to know how you guys feel about the overall health of the market right now. So I feel like the market in the last couple of months has really cooled off, and that's, I think, both a good thing and a bad thing depending on how you look at it. And I'd like to hear it from not someone like me who sells this stuff and deals with it and interacts with it, but someone like you guys who just is kind of doing this for fun. It's like a hobby. How do you feel about the hobby right now, and how do you feel about the state of it and where it's moving? Let's start here. Basic, I want to hear from you here.
All right, let's go ahead and I was going to mute, but all right. So yeah, current state. First off, I want to say very healthy.
Oh yeah,
very healthy. It's where it should be. It's where it should be. It's where a lot of things should be. I really feel bad for the folks that dove in hard in 2020, late 2020, because obviously from that standpoint, it's pretty bad. right? If you were buying the Charizards, the Lugias, you know, what have you, it's a pretty bad, you know, pretty bad situation.
Is it that bad though? Like, really, is it that bad if you jumped in, if you truly love the hobby and you got in and you lost a bunch of money and you're still like,
Oh, if you had basics mindset where everything that you're buying is money down the drain, and if it goes up or down, it doesn't matter. You're never going to see that money. The goal is that one day you will see that money, but at least for the time being, as you're holding the card, as you're holding the item, you don't care what it does, then cool, that's amazing. But how many people can say that? How many people can actually say that when they bought in late 2020 and say, hey, that's pretty awesome. And actually say, hey, I don't regret that buy at all. I would say maybe split 50-50, but it's probably the majority. It's probably the majority. Yeah.
I don't regret that Power Keepers box, but would I have rather have not bought it and then bought it now when it was half price? Definitely.
But,
so yeah,
but there's a difference between a base set chart, the box that you just showed versus a base set chart versus a first edition Lugia versus a PSA 10 Charmander Unlimited. Those are the things that 90% of the things that people were buying during the peak are just completely has been derailed. And I would say the majority of the people that made these buys have been derailed financially, or at least when it comes to these specific items that they bought. So today, as just generalizing everyone in the hobby, it's a very good thing. A Bulbasaur, PSA 10, shout out to Bulbasaur, my favorite starter. It should not be a $500 card. It should be a $50 card.
It should be $30,000.
Exactly. It's the only one.
Let's get real here.
It's the only one that should have that label. But yeah, base set unlimited box, $36,000 at the peak. No, there's a ton of this. So that person and there was maybe a handful that was between $30,000 and $36,000 for a base set unlimited. I mean, most likely those folks are doing, well off anyway, that, they're probably not hurting. But what if one of them's not? And they bought that box, they had $100K in the bank account and they just spent 30% of it on this box. And now it's not even half the price, it's lower than that. That's what sucks. But today, for the people that are coming in, and I stated this, I think it was in a PK Live, for people that are jumping in now, this is an amazing time because you probably did some studying already in the past couple of years because you were outpriced. You wanted to get back in, but you couldn't afford a $500 Charmander PSA 10 Unlimited. So now that you're able to get in for $75, $50 to $75, somewhere in there, maybe $100, it looks a lot better. It looks a lot better. I don't see much of a further decline, but it can definitely happen, maybe 25%. But it's much healthier all around. People coming in are able to get in and at a much healthier rate than back at the peak. So I love it as a collector. Now I'm back at it between 2020 and let's even call it now 2022. I've almost done no buying. I've been extremely careful. And when I have bought maybe a handful of things consciously, it doesn't matter where it goes tomorrow. I'm buying it. I want it. And it's at a healthy price today. Let me get it. But yeah, that's my overall, I guess, to generalize overall, it's good. We're in a good place.
How do you feel, Peek? You think we're in a good spot with the market? What do you think about the overall future of the market? Are you positive about it?
So I am positive. I agree with Basic in the fact that price of entry is good right now for anybody new. And I think when we talk about the health of the market, I always try to, in the forefront of my brain, think of somebody who is just now jumping in. Because realistically, if you're already in, health of the market, that's just volatile. You got to get used to it. You're in collectibles, luxury assets, whatever. So that's something that I think that price of entry is good. For me personally, as a, what I collect and what I look for, it's a gold mine now. Because the primary thing that pushes me to buy is availability for a lot of the things that I look at. And there is more available today than the last 2 years, easy. I mean, just especially, I always harp on Worlds cards, but that's a good example for what I buy because usually those are the ones that's the last thing I see leave somebody's hands, at least original competitors. So to pull those guys out, and like you said, you were a competition guy, threw them in the binder, forgot about it. Some of these guys haven't seen these cards in 15 years. I mean, they just
don't care about them. They really don't.
they don't grade. They sell them raw. They don't know what they want for them, and whatever you offer them, they want higher. I mean, that's just how it is with that. But the biggest thing is
value the experience. They value the
very
experience.
much so. Very much so. But the thing is that they are actually willing to put them in the market. If you go on PWCC right now, you go on eBay right now, and you see the availability, at least from somebody who's tracked those so regularly now. And I'll use that as just a extrapolation of the whole market, at least the market that I get into. There's a lot of stuff available that was not available. People were holding it because they thought that 2020, these can only go up. Now that things have gone down, if you want to come in, if there are cards that you wanted to buy as a kid, I mean, set cards specifically, they're all available. They're always available. Watch your pricing. If you're comfortable with it, like Basic said, just anytime you buy something, just know if it never goes up, that's okay because you still have it. I mean, it's the best outlook to have when you buy these things. The last thing you want to be is the guy with 37 grand on his credit card and goes out and buys a $36,000 box. That's like the last thing you want to do. Don't leverage yourself. But if you have specific stuff you're looking for, and like Basic mentioned earlier, once you get out of set cards, or not once, but if you do get out of set cards, you start looking for these rare and rarer items. I think now is the best possible time to be able to acquire those. And price-wise, I mean, sure, they've come down a little bit. I think every part of the market's been impacted, but availability is the number one positive I think that's come out of this year, going into this year, just because so many people are willing to part with it. Maybe they want to move into other TCGs, which is a big thing now, or they just want to, they're tired of holding it. They want to go buy something else. So right now, I'd say it's good. Future outlook, Pokemon's not going anywhere. And you and I have talked about this. I wish they would maybe extend the time between the sets, because it's very hard for somebody who is not a modern collector or buyer. I mean, I like to open the things, but it's hard to keep track of everything, especially the size of the sets are big. So my outlook is positive. I think if they do have a downtrend in the mass market who actually go in and buy ultra modern, which I think dictates how the hobby's doing as a whole, peppering in smaller subsets throughout the year. We talked about that. Celebrations was a prime example. Huge success. Give us what Japan does. I mean, just do it to an extent. Just start liquidating that in the English market, and I think we will have super legs as far as the future. But right now, I'm positive. I think it's a good time to be in it. And the community, in my opinion, now that all the quote unquote flippers, bad people, new money that just got in, got out, took their losses, took their gains, and left, I think it's never a better time to be engaged in the community, which is part of what pulled me into it. So overall, I think it's on all cylinders right now. I think it's a really, really good time to be in.
Yeah, and if you had to give someone who was entering the hobby some advice right now, like if you had a newbie who's coming in, they said, okay, Peek, okay, Basic, I need one piece of advice. If you had to give me one piece of advice that you learned in your collecting, your whole collecting thing, something that you wish you knew on day one, do you have a piece of advice you could possibly think of that you would give that person? What would you exactly say? Think about it for a minute, Peek, and Basic, do you have any advice? Because as coming from someone who's been in the hobby for so long, I feel like you would have some really good advice if someone was going to come to you.
So I have mine right away. And it's the one that is going to sound redundant at this point, but it's the way that I've gone, as far as purchases goes throughout this whole time, through my allowance, right? Through side gigs, through doing other, miscellaneous things to get money to be able to feed the hobby. From that standpoint, when you're not reaching into the honeypot, when you're not reaching into the accounts to pay your bills and your mortgage or your rent or your food or what have you, and it's or in our situation, it's well, this person is using it for X, which is like completely gone. There's no way you're getting that money back now. As for me at least, it's like, okay, the money's right there. I can sell this guy right now, and it'll sell. I could put it on an auction, it will sell. Even if you lost money, right? Even at the peak, if you put money in there and you sold it, you're getting some money in return, right? A lot of people, when they take their miscellaneous buys, you're not going to get that money back in return. You're lucky if you get 30%, 35%. So my number one rule especially to newbies, number one rule is have a budget is one, but if you can, it's an allowance. It's an allowance that is not. It's what's the term called? It's not directed from your income, but it's money that you can just blow away. What's the term?
It's like play money. It's
Play,
not
exactly. It's just play money that you don't care what happens, whether you're getting a Starbucks or whether you're getting, XYZ, it doesn't matter. That's what I would say is, do not use your livelihood money to buy into Pokemon. You need to build up if you need to. Save a year and then get into Pokemon and then get into collectibles, slabs, sealed product, what have you. But that is my number one, because at least if you lose, because my gut feeling as one of the, I would call myself always a Pokemon fan and a Pokemon fan first. I have a gut feeling, whether it's 15 years, 30 years, collectibles are going to cease to exist. They're not going to be worth anything because of the way that society is just developing and progressing. And, the way that I would kind of frame it is the shallowness of society. It's just going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. And so our kids, while they may have a taste for it right now, I don't know if they're necessarily going to have the same transition that we had, our generation, when they get older. And again, it's just a gut feeling, speculation. But yeah, so a newbie, I would say just be very careful. Make sure that when you're spending every dollar, just like in a casino, take a budget, take $100. If it's $100, it's $100. If it's whatever your budget is, right? Expect to lose it and expect to never get it back. Expect and then
treat Pokemon like a casino and you'll do just fine, as long as it's a responsible way.
As long as it's a responsible way. As long as it's a responsible way, because never expect to get that dollar back. The goal is that one day you can break even, like that one guy, the great curator, I believe is the sports guy. Break even. If you could break even 30 years from now, it's an amazing thing. If you're enjoying it today genuinely, as long as I break even, I'm more than happy, because I never even thought of breaking even when I first got in. I thought I was blowing away my money down the drain, down the toilet. So that would be my number tip, if I was able to articulate that or not.
Yeah, no, that's a really solid point. I think that would be really good advice to anyone. And like for myself, if I would have heard that like coming in, I don't know, I probably would have made some slightly different decisions. So I think that is very good advice. All right, Pete, you got a minute? You had a minute to think about that. Do you think if you had to give a newbie advice, you could give them some sort of a solid, one solid piece that you learned over your time, something that would really help them out?
So I would say know why you're buying, what you're buying, and dictate your actions based on that why. If you're buying it to flip it, flip it. Understand you're gonna have a loss. If you're buying it to keep it, don't let the market dictate your actions if that's why you're buying. I mean, that's the number one mistake I think people make, is they get distracted by the noise. And if you're buying it to flip it, great. Pay attention to the market, set yourself a realistic timeline. How long do you want to hold on to this? How long can you hold on to this? I mean, preferably that can word never comes into play, but the big thing is just know why you're buying it. I mean, at the end of the day, don't let people tell you the Charizard is what you want. Like I said, the biggest thing that I could do coming in as, an older person, I guess, in the hobby, let's say, I could go in and say, okay, well, I have disposable income, which I think is the word you were looking for.
Yes, that's
what I was looking for.
Yep.
So I have disposable income. I don't want to necessarily go out and me personally, I didn't want to go out and open packs that I did as a kid. I didn't need to relive the experience. I wanted to extend the experience to new things that I couldn't afford as a 10-year-old, So I knew the why when I came in, and that's probably the biggest thing, is that if something went down, I don't care, because there's some cards that I don't even look at what the APR is, because it doesn't bother me, because at that point I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not going to sell it. If I want to throw something out there and just say, sure, 10,000, it's like a $2,000 card, I'll do that all day. I mean, everything in my mind has a price. I mean, when I say never sell, I truly don't mean that, because there are certain things that I think I kind of take Dan Catch 'em all collectibles mentality. It's like, sure, everything has a price at some point. The only thing I probably wouldn't sell was if I bought back that birthday Pikachu we talked about. But that's my big thing, is know why you're buying what you're buying, and dictate your actions based on that why. Because if you start straying from that, you're going to lose money, and you're going to realistically not have a good time in the hobby, because everything is going to be dictated by the financial. And this hobby is not necessarily something now that I think somebody's going to come in and just stonk a bunch of cash into, unless you're doing it really, full time, and you are very lucky, and you just, I don't know, you have a crystal ball. Because right now you should, as Basic said, expect the money to go away when you come in, and that's just the best way to go about it. So
That's solid advice. I mean, honestly, if a lot of people who come into the hobby, I feel like just really interact with it on a very like haphazard way, and definitely that's a really like well, I think, disciplined way of thinking about it. I guess when people ask me this a lot on my stream, and so that's why I was really interested in hearing about it from you guys, because I actually interact with quite a few new people on my platform on Whatnot. I get probably 50% of my business from people who are repeat buyers, but I get a lot of people who are newbies too. And it's interesting, I think, because yeah, I think just everyone's a little bit different, and it's interesting to hear those takes. So.
Well, also
I
too, and
usually, when people ask me that, I typically go with the response of like, well, the thing that I mostly would have liked to have known was something that I think a lot of us can relate to, is like when you get back into the hobby, you feel this sense, the sense of the vastness of the hobby. It almost engulfs you, and you feel like you have to make up for lost time. And I think people dive in, and you start going after everything. You start going after, what you loved as a kid, the new stuff you missed, the stuff in between, and it feels very much so like you have to make up for lost time. And that's one of the things I often tell people, that like that's what you need to try to fight, that feeling of FOMO, that feeling that you have to make up for lost time. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. It's very much so important to pace yourself, have a good time. The hobby will be here tomorrow. You'll go to sleep. That card that you love, unless it's a crazy 1 of 5 trophy card that never comes up, it'll most likely still be there in the morning. And if it's gone, another one will come up. Be patient, and don't fall for that FOMO that all of us feel and have felt, especially when you re-enter the hobby for after a long time. Because this hobby, I think, is so like, it's tied to our feelings of nostalgia, and like our feelings of childhood and bliss and like good times, and our friends, and being on the playground trading, and all these things that we talk about in this stream. It's tied to these emotions, and it's very important. I tell people to not fall for that emotion, that FOMO, because it's a vast hobby. There's a lot of these cards out there, and if people are really patient, and they just kind of take their time, I feel like it's that's advice that I wish I would have adhered to a little bit more when I got back in, because I know that I was just buying everything. Like when I got back into the hobby, I literally was like, oh cool, all this old, like all the old base stuff that I didn't have in my binder, I want to fill in the holes of my regular, like light played, moderately played Wizards of the Coast sets. Check that off, done. All this EX era stuff that I wasn't around for, whoa, what's this? This is cool, never seen this before. I sort of call it like reverse nostalgia, the stuff that you missed out on, that you feel like you would have liked at the time, that you then rediscover. I think that stuff has almost more nostalgia than stuff like that I experienced. For me, like base set, for example, I opened a ton of packs of. It's like, yeah, that's cool, it's nostalgic, it's very reminiscent to me, but like I experienced it already.
yep.
I love, that's the one thing I love about modern, is like it's new, it's fresh. It's like I really like what Pokemon's doing with it. So like I'm a big modern bull, and so like I always talk about modern because I really do enjoy it. And it's that same sense of like that wonderment that you get when you see new things. So that's what
only other thing I just wanted to, as you talked right there, just to add on to it, know your platform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, meaning what are you buying on? Know how it works. Like, I can't even imagine how much money people have lost not knowing how buyer's premium works. Everybody sees the PWCC advertising. You didn't know that you were paying 20% more. Maybe that was at your max. Whatnot, I think, is a phenomenal platform. Those guys are seriously changing the game. But I think that FOMO feeling you're talking about, even myself, I feel that more on those streams than anything else, because everything's a deal.
Auctions in general, just they have this way of inducing this feeling of like euphoria. Like when you win an auction, it's like winning something. So definitely
I beat that guy. I definitely didn't just spend $500. I just beat that guy.
Yeah,
exactly.
it feels like sometimes a small win. Like then you get your little card, you get your win, and it's like, yeah.
So as you guys are talking, right, I'm just going to throw another tip in there. Very important, I think, when you're doing auctions, doesn't matter where it is, have your budget going into that auction. Know what your max bid is. You can put it at the last minute, but know what your last second auction or max bid is, because it is very easy to say, oh, what's another $1? What's another $5? What's another $50? Depending if you're going after a $1,500 card, what's another $50? stick to your guns, stick to your budget. Do not spend a penny above.
I have a question for you, Basic. What second do you wait for, or what number do you wait for on auctions before you put in that last snipe bid?
3. I do 1.
You're at 1 second.
Do you?
I do 1.
You savage.
You're mad.
The moment 2 goes to a 1, so it's almost 2 seconds. Really, let's call it. It's let's go, and then yeah, it's.
I'm never bidding.
You have to trust your Wi-Fi.
Boy, you were.
And he's doing it on Wi-Fi. What a monster! If you were plugged in, I guess I could understand. What a beast!
I want at 1 second. The moment the 2 switches to a 1, boom, throw it in there, and then the second it buffers, you won the auction or you lost the auction.
So I'm glad that I haven't bid against Basic. I just can't even imagine the anger I'd feel putting a 3-second bid and somebody hitting me.
You both are beating me in this. Like, I thought my 4 seconds was pretty, I thought people were putting it at 10 seconds. Okay, put it down in the comments if you made it this long below. What second in snipes do you put in for your eBay snipes? This is really just research so that I can kind of find out what that number is and beat it all. So make sure you keep that in mind. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments if you made it this much. What's your number on eBay? Where do you snipe at? What second?
I hate it. And you always wonder, where is it coming from? But when people are bidding at 30 seconds, why?
Why?
The snipe
Why are you
programs.
doing that?
The snipe sites. No, the snipe sites do 5 seconds. From what I see, 5 and 6 seconds.
But
that's why I hit
30
3. But 30, I don't.
Yeah, 30 seconds. That's what makes.
Maybe it's something they just didn't know. They're just like, nobody's going to pull up a bid in 30 seconds. Nobody's even looking at this.
So speculating at 30 seconds.
There are times
where is that coming from?
when I'll put in a bid like a days in advance just on an item when you're the first one, and I'll say I will buy this if it goes below this price, and it just doesn't ever reach that price. And in that case, yes, putting in the bid beforehand, I understand. Like when there's 0 bids on it, or like 1 bid, and you want to try to bull or scare other people out of it by putting them, I don't know. So I have my little strategies too, but yeah, I think that's funny. So man, 30 seconds, who does that? That is someone just
people who don't win auctions.
No, so
the person's friend. The person's friend
again, not to speculate
Probably.
here, but it's like, okay, 30 seconds is the owner shilling here? Is it the second account trying to buff that price because it's so low at 30 seconds left? So
the only one that I'll throw in ahead of time is PWCC. Max bid on everything and leave it alone and wait for the email. Okay. It's the best way to, because I'm not going to get an extended bidding. I already know what I want to pay. So if somebody wants to sit there and go to it, great. But I love that platform for that reason, that it's the only one I can just go, here's what it is, and I can just walk away. If I do that on eBay, I don't know. I just feel like it just feels different. It feels different. Exactly. So so that's my only take on that one. But that's a good question.
Comments say this is actually, I wasn't expecting. That's a really good little comment section piece there for sure.
Somebody's going to say 0.5 seconds when the 1 turns to a 0 just to beat Basic.
People are very specific, I'm sure, about they have superstitions. Because I know, for me, it's 4, but it's right when the 4 is turning to 3. So it's so I give myself that benefit of the doubt if my Wi-Fi, because I have bad, if I have my reception, if I ever lose Wi-Fi, I'm done. I'm in the dark ages. The first 4 days I moved into my place here, we had no internet because Comcast had to come set it up, and I had a few days to wait. It was like I was living in the dark ages again. It was like the 90s, but I didn't have a boombox, and I didn't have a Walkman, and all I had was Pokemon cards, thankfully, but it was not a good time.
I've got gigabit, and I still won't even take Basics 1 second. I'm hardwired. I'm not even going to try to even take the risk. That is that's probably the most savage.
The seasoned vet. He knows. He's like, if I lose this, I don't even care. I'll get another one.
So the go to auctions.
Yeah, it's 99%. It's on my phone because I trust the phone over the laptop. Laptop. And
I don't ever bid on eBay on the laptop either, or on my internet. It's always my phone.
Yeah, the phone is always the fastest it goes in. But Oldie, just a heads up, at 3.9 seconds, I have enough time to outbid you. So just
oh, you have enough time to beat me in 3.49 seconds?
At 3.9 seconds, if you're throwing in your bid at 3.9 seconds, I have enough time to outbid you.
Plenty of time. And it's happened. I have literally been outbid at that 4 second mark many times, and it always baffles me. I'm like, man, these people are wild. They're living that life. They're bigger bulls than I am, and it's good for them,
Basic's such a pro. He doesn't even unlock his phone until 5 seconds. He's like, been doing this. I'm ready. I got 4 whole seconds left.
So I set my alarm, and actually, again, I don't use the laptop. Laptop is plan B. I have the phone going at the same time, and I'm using the phone primarily, but I'm looking at the laptop, and I have the finger ready at the click. So I'm pressing the one here on the phone for the 2 seconds. But if I see something go up on the laptop where it goes above my budget, and it goes against what I just said, but the tip. But if it goes something where I'm like, okay, that's ridiculous. Click, and it clicks to the next, to the next auction. So there's a little tip for everyone. Don't do it. Don't go above your budget. Don't go above.
I gotta do a whole series on just like people's eBay tips and tricks, because every single person I've ever talked to in this hobby has their own like tricks that they use on eBay, and every time I ask them, it's something completely new that I'm like, that is wild. I love that. So I think that would be a hilarious like subtopic. Just like, what do you do, Ani? What's your trick? Because I personally, I love eBay. It's one of my favorite places to buy on. So down below, I'm gonna put the affiliate link down below. You go and shop on eBay, use that affiliate link. It'll give me 1 to 4% of whatever you get, a little kickback. Appreciate that. But yeah, eBay, great place. I found such crazy things on eBay. I've gotten scammed on eBay before, but for the most part, I've had eBay's has your back, so pretty great platform. I've been on it since 2010, so I've had my account for a while. But yeah, do you guys buy mostly? Where do you find most of your deals on? Where do you buy your stuff?
Preferably private. That's usually what I try to do almost 99% of the time, but it doesn't always work out that way. Second is eBay, third is PWCC, I would say. Those eBay Monday, Tuesday afternoon auctions before 5, I'm all in. I'm like, I don't know why you did this to yourself, but I'm about to pick this up.
Yeah.
But yeah, personally, I mean, preferably private. I like to deal with people directly, but yeah.
How about you, Basic? Where do you deal with most of your transactions at?
So for sure, it's eBay. PWCC. Now that it's come on, I've definitely jumped on Heritage and Golden, but I'm yet to win one on any of those platforms. Yeah, those are the main platforms that I go on to. PWCC is one of my favorites. Now it's fun. Like I go in with my budget, but I wait until the end and just play with it. All right, let's go another $10. Let's go another $10 following my budget. It's just fun.
Cool stuff pops up on PWCC. I like the
100%.
selection of variety. That's what's nice about that.
I prefer the monthly, but
yeah, I also like the monthly over the weekly, but that's a whole nother podcast, right?
Yeah.
The private sales, I love them, except for I would only do it with trusted, people. There's been a couple of times that I've done it with people that I just didn't trust, but it was one of those things that's like, you know what, I gotta go out on a limb here and get it. That Charizard, that Danon Canadian Charizard. It was one of those IGs, and then the other one was the PWCC. But my very first one, because it was what I would call a ridiculous price on eBay. It was originally on eBay, and I worked it down to 50% off based on eBay. Buy it now. So, but it was only happened through IG, and those were the first, a week and a half of that I from the moment that I sent over the monies to the moment that I got the card back. Oh, that was just excruciating. I was panicking. I couldn't sleep. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna get scammed so hard. But
did you do goods and services?
Let me see what
on PayPal.
It wasn't PayPal. It was.
I do everything through goods and services just as a business for tax purposes and stuff. I have to. So when people try to be like friends and family, please, unless you literally are a friend, ain't gonna happen with me. I eat the fee, so I'm eating the fee. So
I don't think that's how it works on Cash App, but I use the Cash App, so that's not an option there. So that's
it's just straight. You send it, yeah.
But yeah, I kind of based it off the IG and the profile, and just kind of okay, he's got a large enough following. The people that follow him, I also follow, so it's like okay, I think I can roll the dice here, and go with that. So, but yeah, those are scary for sure.
Another good reason to definitely get engaged in the community for reasons like that. If somebody has a card that they don't have an eBay account, like it's the best to be comfortable by, because even with some of the people that I've done deals with, I don't know them. Yeah. And that's something that, I do goods and services because PayPal is just the easiest for me to do that with. And they'll almost exclusively back the buyer when it comes to
only 3% as well. It's only 3%.
It's not much.
It's really,
and I'm a fan of FNF for sure, obvious reasons. But the big thing is that if you can, like you said, basically people that follow them, I used to, when I first started out, doing the reference checks and like try to basically FBI these people to know if they're scamming me. But once you actually like get to know people in the hobby and everybody kind of has their little inner circle, like it makes it a lot more comfortable. So yeah, I wouldn't, don't trust everybody out the gate if you do come in new and hey, private duels is the way to go, because you will get your money taken and you will not have a good time. So unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I've had
Yeah.
to so I've become much more comfortable, but in the beginning of my re-entry to the hobby, I bought online before, and I've used friends and family, and I got taken for about $100 in one of those online groups through friends and family. Looked like he had a fine account, just some normal guy in Florida. Should have been, first of all, I should have known it was in Florida, right? No, but you know, I sent through friends and family thinking it would be fine. It was $100, and end of the day, I ended up getting taken for it, but it was a small price to pay, I feel like, for the majority of my time in the hobby. Now it's like even people that I trust, I use goods and services, but that's a different story because now I do it for tax
You're a
purposes.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tax purposes, so that's a different story with that, transactions wise. But even if I didn't have a business, I would still probably recommend people just use goods and services if you've never dealt with someone before. First transaction, first two, you eat $5-10 of extra fees maybe, but it's honestly worth that sort of level of security that it adds to you, so that you don't have to not sleep at night for a couple of nights, like Basic said, you know? Like it's at the end of the day, it ended up being fine, but you don't have to go through that if you don't have to. So definitely those types of like those things that they put there for our benefit, it's definitely useful to use at times. And so that's a good point for other new people, is like, you know, don't worry about those 3% fees. Don't worry about it so much.
3%. It's
Yeah,
a credit card fee. You pay it every day.
It's tiny. It's really small. It's minimal, and it's for that peace of mind. It's really good for that. But you guys, this has been a really, really amazing talk. We're going on probably close to 2 hours now, so it's very much so probably about time we start winding it down. I think this might call for like a part 2 sometime in the future. Maybe we'll have to touch base, do some more lives or something. But yeah, if you guys have any maybe closing words, anything you'd like to say, anything maybe we didn't touch base on that you wanted to close on, I would love to hear from you again. And maybe if you want to shout out your Instagram or possibly your channels, that would be great too. I'll link both of these guys' Instagrams down in the description of the video as well, so you guys can check them out there. Go follow them. Great content, great people. Just really, it's been an honor talking to you guys. So, but yeah, do you have any last words you wanted to throw out there, guys? Anything before we kind of wrap it up?
Really appreciate it, man. Having me and Basic on the channel, it's I think this is a really, really cool idea for a series of people engaged, but not content creators. That's always something I think that there's a lot of opinions out there, but overall, your content's awesome. You know, obviously we've connected, you know, over a few different variants of the community, and you've always put out solid stuff, man. Truly stand-up guy. Yeah, I think we covered a lot today. I look forward to the next one. You know, there's a lot of stuff to talk about in this hobby, and I think both Basic and I don't mind talking very long-winded about it. So, other than that, I appreciate you bringing me on. I do not have a YouTube or anything. Instagram, PeekDatChu. I'm the Nigel Thornberry Pikachu. It's pretty easy to recognize. See me in comment sections most of the time. So, but yeah, other than that, man, I appreciate you having me on. It's been great.
Yeah, Oldie, same. Thank you for having me on. Again, I'm a fan first. The fact that I've been on quite a few, you know, YouTube channels, it's an honor that people want to hear my 2 cents, you know. It's always been mind-boggling to me, but I think it's very important to hear the 2 cents of probably 99% of the hobby. And it's one of those things where it's kind of been thrown around lately, you know, respect the hobby. And it's something that I really do take to heart, because as cheesy as it may sound, Pokemon is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the most innocent things that I have left in the world, and it's Pokemon. And so I want it to be wholesome. I want it to be, you know, pure. Whether you're a new kid coming in, whether you're an adult, it doesn't matter. It's all about us. It's all about community. It's all about being able to connect. It's all about the friends that you make. Buy what you love, buy what you like, so that you don't have any regrets. The hobby, enjoy it genuinely, create a bigger circle, bring everyone in, create a bigger family, and that's what it's all about. So I can go on forever on that speech, but that's the gist. So yeah, hopefully we can continue this on for a very long time.
Heck yeah, man. I'm glad that you guys came on. I really appreciate you again for coming here. Thanks again, everyone who made it all the way through the videos. Please like and subscribe. We're going to have more of these in the future. We're going to try to get a great variety of people, and we're probably going to have these two guys on again because, I mean, we could literally talk for hours, and we have. So we will continue to do so. So thanks again, guys. I appreciate you coming in. We'll see you guys on the next one, though. Yeah, until the next time, guys. Have a great night.